Hello. The last section was sort of a summary of the major literary theories of the modern age. Again, every single theory can be individually studied and researched at your own pace. You won't be tested on any of them for this course, only on the reading in the syllabus. But I did leave out one area of literary theory on purpose, only because it's really its own monster. I'm referring to, of course, psychoanalysis, the most famous subgenre of the genre being based on the works of Sigmund Freud. I will get to Freud in a later module, since he is the most important figure in the psychoanalytical world. And when you get to read Bruno Bettelheim and his theories on children's literature, an understanding of Freud becomes crucial. Um, so all of this about the five stages of child development, the oral, the anal, the phallic, latency, and genital, the development of the ego, all of that will be reviewed in detail. Just hold tight. Um, However, not all psychoanalysis is just Freudian. There are two major psychoanalytical perspectives, all owing some appreciation to the Vienna Society, and it takes psychoanalysis down a different path. The first I want to mention is derived from the theory of Carl Jung. Again, I will discuss his theories in a later module when I present the archetype of the hero's journey. But Jung believed in the collective unconscious, that the archetypes we see in literature is not simply the part of a structural analysis, as Pop proposes, but are reflections of the universal truth within our consciousness over time. So he's not taking cultural patterns found in other countries, say like Prop does with Russian literature. But all these patterns are internal. Um, this is why we see patterns when none exist. They are repressed memories that every person has. So Jung's view of, say, Freud's Oedipal complex, that every straight male has fantasies of sleeping with their mothers, that's a part of our consciousness. Jung just makes it generational. Now, the other type of psychoanalysis is a lot more complicated, and I don't think I could do it justice in such a short time frame. Albeit, an essential part of literary theory's diet is it is difficult to digest, and I can only provide you some links that might make it easier. But then again, it might only confound you. I'm referring to the theory of Jacques Lacan. Now, his psychoanalytical theory allows us to use Freud's ideas without the sexist and perverse stigma. This is because Lacan is really talking about language instead of sexual repression. And I will discuss a part of Lacanian thinking when we analyze Wordsworth's Ode. See, like Freud, Lacan believed in a common child development, but he doesn't cover the entire 14 years of adolescence. Instead, he just focuses on the first 4 years. Lacan believed that the child, as infant until about 6 months, lived in a pure materiality of existence, what he calls the real. This is where the entire infant's existence so far is complete and wonderful chaos, filled with perceptions and feelings and needs, and somewhat like Wordsworth's interpretation of the Platonic concept in the pre-existing state. He mentions this in the Ode. Before our birth, we are part of God's thought of mind, where there is no boundaries. Thus, when we are born, we start to forget that pre-existing state. And Wordsworth calls this the dream, but is but asleep and forgetting. That's line 58. And then from 6 to 18 months, we have this crisis, what Lacan refers to as the mirror stage. This is where the infant, still approaching toddlerhood, sees itself in the mirror and admires what it sees, but it also realizes that its body, developing body, is clumsy and it doesn't match up with the image. This image looks human, but the body is not operating in an appropriate or useful manner, and thus the image or sign that he sees doesn't correspond with the self. This is where the baby experiences admiration and frustration, disappointment and determination to match up its own body with the images that it sees. So, in between 18 months and 4 years, the process uh, turns onto the proposal of language. Language, which is made up of signs, becomes the child way of comprehending the world, particularly when it comes to these differences it sees. Sure, language is just a bunch of signs and poor substitutes to actual sense of existence, but it's the only thing that he has to understand the world. Um, and so these stories, made up of language, are attempts or substitutes to knowing our true selves. But we also know that these stories, made up of language and signs, are not true. It is not the image that we see. Now, again, this is equally confusing for me, but I just wanted to address these theories because they do zigzag across literary studies, even in the studies of children's stories, and it will prove to be valuable if it didn't scare you off. Again, we will get through Freud and Biederheim later, but for now, take a breath, and I'll just see you at the next lesson.